um, uh, what Crowley had told other Democrats. Those rumors took place, and that was very unfair, Lee said, but we're moving forward now. She added, however, that the institution that had supported Ocasio-Cortez during her primary against Crowley was patently false because she had supported Ocasio-Cortez during her primary because during her primary against Crowley was patently false because Lee wasn't even aware of Ocasio-Cortez's challenge. I mean, she's such a crazy left-winger. I didn't even know he had a primary. Lee said of the under the radar contest that resulted in Crowley's startling loss. While Lee has not encouraged primaries against her colleagues and has worked closely with the party leadership in her time in the House, she has a really kind of iconoclastic image rooted in her lone voice against authorizing the use of military force in the days after 9/11. That was a kind of big reputation building thing for her, as it should have been, because it was a pretty incredible thing to do. So Lee is floated as something of a hero, something of a veteran, something we can all look to, like a mother figure in the insurgent side of the Democratic caucus. Ocasio-Cortez even floated Lee's name for Speaker in June, later endorsed her bid to become caucus chair. Ro Khanna of California is an early and vocal supporter of Lee. She's a single profile of courage in the House. John Lewis is a profile of courage for his life. Barbara Lee is for her vote. Higgins, the New York representative who backed Jeffries, suggested that Crowley did have a hand in nudging Jeffries into the race against Lee. So possibly even that. Like, Lee probably would have even won, like, if it hadn't for Joe Crowley, just kind of pushing this across the line, pushing the candidacy of Jeffries into the line. I mean, it's very possible that she would have even won. Hakeem was going to be around there for a long time. Our good friend Joe Crowley was defeated. I think Joe probably mentored him a little bit towards this. Hakeem is going to be around for a long time, so you think. We'll see about that. Yeah, and of all the people who should get 2020 insurgents, in progressive campaign challenges, Hakeem Jeffries shot up to the top of my list. Let's see where Mike, what's his name? Higgins? Higgins also sounds like a pretty corrupt guy too, especially with a name like Higgins. Let's see, I'm looking at Brian Higgins. He was a good friend, but a good feel. Like, that's how politics works. You can still be friends with him. You don't have to talk to him in Congress every day. Jesus Christ. Buffalo. He's a Buffalo guy. Niagara Falls. So he is, again, supposed to be a pretty big... He's very close to what I think is a lot of... in the Great Lakes region, that area, so it's very interesting to watch. Maybe what happens to him in that time. So, cool. I'm not suggesting anything, but again, he should probably watch out when 2020 rolls around. Not suggesting anything. Okay, calm down. Just all I'm saying. Yeah, so Higgins responded in general terms when asked if Crowley, who was closing out his 10th term in Congress, encouraged Jeffries to run against Lee. He said, to what extent, I don't know, but that he's a mentor, and that I think he helped develop him a strategy to succeed. I think that's what happened. Here's what I know. Jug Crowley is the most popular guy on campus. Democrats and Republicans, Joe had a close relationship with Hakeem. Waleed Shahid, a spokesman for the Justice Democrats who backed Ocasio-Cortez, said Crowley's move was absolutely despicable, and then all the more reason to continue targeting the Democrats to undermine a progressive agenda. That's exactly why we need more primaries, to have a Democratic Party that fights for its voters, not corporate donors. I think I'll leave it at that, and because that's a good way to end it up. More primary challenges. That's all this proves, especially the kind of the kind of like backbiting and dealing that goes on in situations like this. It's just absolutely crazy. So CNN on Thursday afternoon, I'm going to turn tides down to CNN. A little bit of a jolt there from one languishing organization to another, the House Democratic Caucus to CNN. Hopefully not too languishing in the future. Saying on CNN Thursday afternoon, fired its commentator, Temple University professor Mark Lowon Hill, after right-wing defenders of Israel objected to a speech Professor Hill gave at the UN on Wednesday in defense of Palestinian rights. CNN announced his firing just 24 hours after Hill delivered his speech, which is very quick. Because let me guess, the entire pro-Israel lobby of Washington had Jeff Zucker on the phone. Boop, 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 boop. Jeff Zucker, you got to fire him. I mean, Jesus. Yeah, so CNN's firing for Hill's firing for CNN is a major victory for the growing so-called online call-out culture in which people who express controversial political views are not merely critiqued, but demonized online and then formally institutionally punished after mom consolidates an outrage, often targeting their employees with demands that they be terminated. Hill's firing is a major defeat for the right to advocate for Palestinian rights as well, and freely critique the Israeli government, which is something that you can't even do here in America, and still be able to keep your job, which is a scary, scary thought, being that America is supposedly the home of free speech. And conservatives claim to be offended, traumatized, and hurt by Hill's political views on Israel and Palestine, which they somehow construed as being anti-Semitic, and demanded that CNN fire him as a punishment for the expression of those opinions, which is pretty incredible. So Wednesday, pretty much, this is the big major thing. So on Wednesday, Hill appeared at an event of the UN Committee on the Exercise of Inalienable Rights of the Palestinian People, commemorating the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. In his speech, he accused the Israeli garment. Wow. I'm just reading some tweets ahead, and apparently, the Washington. So this is what he said here. I'm getting ahead of myself. He accused the Israeli government of practicing settler colonialism and apartheid. Supported international boycott movement against Israel, modeled on the one that ended South African apartheid in the 1980s, and called for a free Palestine from the river to the sea. So that's geographically is what a lot of people got triggered over, because they thought, destroy Israel from the river to the sea. And I'm not really an expert on that region's geography, so I'm just going to pull this up really quick. If we go get to Palestine here, so if we were to go to Palestine here, I think it's going to be very interesting to actually see what this is, because we got Jerusalem, we got Israel, and the Dead Sea. I don't know what he's talking about. There's a river, so I don't know what to do. Maybe I'm not getting the reference here. I'm probably not, because I'm not expert on this stuff. So that's something I'm going to have to take a little bit of a backseat on. But so that's that reference there, which really doesn't sound that controversial. I think he could have said it in much more general terms. Here's what he says to the committee. So this is the audio.
To commit to political action, grassroots action, local action, and international action that will give us what justice requires. And that is a free Palestine from the river to the sea. Thank you for your time.
All right, that's the quote there from Mark Lamont Hill that really threw everyone into a tizzy. So boom, right when an outrage machine springing into immediate action here. The Washington Examiner's Philip Klein accused Hill of a long history of anti-Semitism, adding the phrase "from the river to the sea" has been a rallying cry for Hamas and other terrorist groups seeking the elimination of Israel as a Palestinian state stretching from Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, meaning that Israel would be wiped off the map. Okay, so there is a river. Jordan River. I see. So it looks like here. So I'm still, you're going to have to forgive me here for my poor geographical references. So, someone in the pro-Israel right who agitated for Hill's firing has previously mocked what they call the outrage culture. Washington Examiner's executive editor and fanatical Israel defender Seth Mandel long denounced and ridiculed such mobs for angrily objecting James Gunn for provocative Twitter remarks about pedophilia, nonetheless. Mandel used similarly derisive language, internet outrage machine, to denounce removal of a Business Insider column by Daniela Greenbaum, which was transphobic, or at least being accused of transphobic. So all these people, they're like free speech warriors. We have to see more free speech on the college campuses. We have to, the conservatives are getting stifled. Boom. someone says mildly criticizes Israel, they are fired from their job, and they're demonized incredibly. So that all they think of is that one comment that wasn't even that controversial to begin with, which is incredible. The stalwart champion of free expression posted a series of tweets claiming that he was an anti-Jewish bigot, an advocate of genocide, and posted multiple childless tweets with gifs celebrating Hill's firing. There are few people more craven or contemptible than those who pretend to support free speech and then oppose the attempts of internet mobs they disagree with, to have those they disagree with fired. So it's like something that they totally used it for their own gain. They don't believe in, like, these groups, once for all, you can write Seth Mandel off whenever he mentions anything about, like, people trying to boycott, like, Bill O'Reilly, or, like, you're not letting me have free speech. You know what? You're going to have to take a back seat on this. You're going to have to take a back seat on this because of after what you said, after what you did to Mark Lawan Hill, who was perfectly, completely normally criticized Israel. Very mildly so. And he's fired, and you're to blame for it. So that's going to be your situation that you're going to have to deal with. So you can't ever say that again. That's pretty much it. The most baffling and repellent trait of censorship advocates that they somehow convince themselves that censorship standards they champion will be used only against the ideas that they hate, and the ideas they like will somehow be protected. Matt Taibbi has repeatedly been documenting this warped self-delusion that led liberals on Silicon Valley to demand censorship political speech only to be shocked and angry that a lot of the censorship is being directed at leftist and liberal sites, which is something that you're going to want to have to deal with here. Liberals' demands that Facebook remove content that supposedly incites violence resulted predictably in the removal of thousands of Palestine pages at the demands of the Israeli government, and few Israeli pages suffered similar repression, and often comes back to bite us. And something we got to be very, very, very careful about. Very careful about. So obviously, as a private corporation, Tina has the legal right to fire Hill, just as the Google had the right to fire that guy who was like, women shouldn't be paid the same amount. Facebook has the legal right to ban Palestinians. Twitter has the legal right to ban various right-wing polemicists, and ABC had the legal right to fire Roseanne Barr. But there was a case of, I think this is like Sam Cedar all over again, if you remember what happened with Mike Cernovich. We're now going to turn to a nice story. Diamond and Silk, Lynette Hardaway and Rochelle Richardson. They are two very big Trump supporters who've been posting videos since the 2016 campaign even on Facebook, and they're big pro-Trump. And pretty much their whole thing is, we love Trump, but here's a twist, we're also black women. So they met with everyone. They met with Eric Trump. They met with Donald. I think they met with the president. They've been on all these shows. They're very famous, very popular among the right-wing world for just being black women and supporting Trump and calling out the Democrats, which is by the name of their new, literally only Vimeo. It's only going to be on Vimeo. It's an exclusive documentary, exclusive to Vimeo, by the way, that they're going to pay for and we're going to talk about. So, Fox's Juan Williams and CNN's Tara Setmeyer have both described the duo as a minstrel show, and for all that bluster about supposedly being censored by social media platforms during their literal congressional testimony last year, that's the other part, they said, like, we're being censored. Republicans are so, like, get here right now, we're having a hearing for you. So, almost every YouTube result is an attribute for a Diamond and Silk as a Fox News clip uploaded by the official Fox News account. It's all Diamond and Silk videos. Saying, given that Fox News' elderly white viewers have been so incredibly receptive to Diamond and Silk scam so far, the obvious step was to upsell them on a feature film. So we get the documentary Democrats, which was released in theaters for only one day on October 16th. It's now available for rent, $9.99, or purchase, $19.99 on Vimeo. Which is also pretty incredible stuff. So this is the new documentary, which is we're going to talk about today. It's absolutely incredible. Many of the comments on Vimeo are from senior citizens who thought they were getting a DVD, but are bewildered about the concept of watching a movie on a computer. But they already bought it, so there's no reason. There's no really reason not to produce one of these amateurish documentaries if you have the ability to. Kyle Olson, who's the film's director and writer and producer, so he's like covering all the worlds there, runs the third-string fake news website, the American Mirror,